Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Russia fails to respond to Ukrainian aggression and they're flailing around like a fish out of water. They are trying to do certain things to prevent further advances by Ukrainians, but this causes more problems. So let's just dive in and see where we're at. Today's video is going to be a little bit short because there were a couple of really important analyses from knowledgeable experts about the situation in Ukraine. The issues with them is they're analysts by experts. It's a wall of text, it's hours of video. So I need just more time to read that all and give you a proper analysis. So hopefully I'll make another video tomorrow. But today, let's look at the situation in Kursk. And here, while people that are not following too much might look at this and at a glance, it feels that this is the same that we saw before. Whereas in reality, it is not. Because since the last video that I made about the Ukrainian incursion into Russia, the controlled territory that Ukraine controls almost doubled. When I made that last video, Ukraine controlled about 500 to 600 square kilometers of the territory of Russia. Currently, it is being officially reported that Ukraine controls 74 settlements and 1,000 square kilometers of the territory of Russia. 1,000 square kilometers is a lot. Let me just quickly switch to the deep state map right over here because it has a very great function. When you click on the Russian occupied territory, in this area, for example, Avdiivka, it will show that the occupied area of Avdiivka is 553 square kilometers. So Ukraine currently controls, after a week of incursion into Russian territory, it controls double, I repeat, double of what Russia has captured during their offensive to Avdiivka during this whole year, where they lost tens of thousands of troops, where they lost thousands of vehicles. Ukraine is advancing into the Russian territory relatively with light losses. And it's important to underscore because recently there came out certain footage that I cannot show you here because YouTube policies, but there came out footage of Ukrainians being ambushed by the Russian forces. And obviously it resulted in some vehicles being destroyed and captured, Ukrainians being killed. And that is the war. That's how the war is. In an offensive operations, usually the attacking side sustains about 2-3 times more losses than the defending side. So now Russians, the initial momentum, the initial stage of surprise is gone. And now Russians are starting to realize what Ukraine is doing, where they are located, and how are they advancing. In total, Ukraine right now is moving in 4 directions. The directions is direction towards Kornevo, where Ukrainians are advancing both towards the city. They're also advancing north of the city and trying to take it kind of in a half circle from the north. Additionally, Ukrainians are moving here in the south, and the Russians are already reporting that Ukrainians are trying to encircle Kornevo to try to essentially put it in a pocket. Then the second direction that Russians are reporting Ukrainians are advancing is north towards Lvov. This is the settlement right over here. There has been certain videos shown with Ukrainians supposedly posing with the sign of Lvov, but it has been debunked as fake because the sign that the person is using is not the sign that is used for the city of Lvov. But there are reports up here in the north where Ukrainians are already fighting the Russians. Sorry, maybe it's a little bit too far. Let me see. No, actually, that was about right. Yes. So around these areas, around these settlements, some of the forward-moving Ukrainian troops are actually already fighting, and there are reports for that. Then the third direction that Ukrainians are fighting for is this direction over here along this road. It is the direction towards the Kursk, direction towards the capital city. Now here it is still shown that Martinovka supposedly is Russian controlled. I have different news, but so far Russians have not been stating that Ukrainians are capturing Martinovka, but let's just say that they are very sad whenever they're talking about it. And finally, the fourth direction is Ukrainians not completely moving along the road right over here. They're moving a little bit towards the south, more along the border, and trying to attack here. And here, Ukrainians have been reported reaching this agglomeration right over here with Giri and so on, and there are already clashes. This is actually the area where Ukrainians got ambushed with their forward operating forces. Along that, they are also attacking here, and supposedly they are also captured Ozerki. So all in all, if we kind of draw a map of what we have rumors for, that Ukrainians are attacking forward and so on, some of the forward positions, some of the less rumored, then you can see that the controlled area by Ukrainians is much larger than we see here on these conservative maps. However, it's important to note that Russians have a lot of troops, and they still can just send in a big mass of troops to respond to Ukrainian aggression, and Ukrainians will start being slowed down. But so far, Ukrainians are not slowing down. Ukrainians are continuing advancing. Russians are failing to stop them, and Russian response has been pitiful. Firstly, Russian response on the government level has been kind of crazy, because it's both, as I said, is a big topic that they need to talk about, and they also a topic that taboo you cannot talk about. One of the interesting incidents that happened with Russia was the fact that they destroyed their own column of troops. And this is why the operational security is so golden. Because right now, Russia is in chaos of information. They have really poor intelligence because of the Ukrainian electronic warfare systems. So there was a Telegram channel that reported that somewhere around the Belgorod region, Ukrainians supposedly breached the border with Russia, and they are moving heavy troops into Russia. Russians started panicking. They dislodged some forces to try to stop this offensive. They also sent in some of the aviation, and supposedly they destroyed some kind of column of vehicles, where it turns out that that column of vehicles that Russia has destroyed was Russian. As it turned out later on, that the Telegram channel that reported this news actually mistaken movements of some of the Russian columns and Russian vehicles. They mistaken that for the offensive from the Ukrainian side. So now Russian government is actively discussing the fact that they need to block these free Telegram bloggers that are reporting untrue information and confusing Russian forces, leading to casualties and defamation of the military of Russia, etc., etc., etc. Additionally, Russians are flailing because of the second part. They have now started taking out some of the troops from some of the directions. Most notably, the directions that they've been moving the troops from is Kharkiv, some around Kremenna, Chasiv Yar, and some from the south. And Russians, they find themselves in a dilemma. It's best illustrated, for example, by Kharkiv direction. Because here, as soon as the Russians started pulling out the troops, Ukrainians started moving forward. And now Russians are like, well, it's kind of bad. Because now you're in a lose-lose situation. If you pull out, you lose supposedly these territories that you were controlling. And the same goes for other directions, by the way, as well. And as soon as they're pulling out the troops, they see instantly weakening of positions. Some of the Russian bloggers have reported that Russians have been pulling out troops even from the front line that allowed Ukrainians to counterattack and retake those positions that Russians, remember, Russians are advancing by sacrificing a lot of their troops. And now there is a lot of problems in Russian blogosphere. So what Russians did is they tried to remove the troops that they were supposed to be rotating in, currently attacking Russian troops on those attacking directions. And they are hoping that it's going to be enough, that these forces that have now been sent to the Kursk direction, it will be enough to slow down and stop Ukrainian offensive. because if not, then they will need right away to pull troops that are on the front line itself. This underscores once again that Russia had zero reserves. Russia had absolutely nothing. And what are they doing right now? Is just a Hail Mary for them trying to respond to Ukrainian attack. We are not even talking about Russians pushing Ukrainians out at this stage. Putin has put some kind of a new guy that is from the FSB, that is from his close circle. FSB is the same as KGB, to try to run the operation in Kursk area. And it is creating problem for him because now he needs to build a whole new chain of command, and it's going to take additional time for Russians to respond with whatever is happening. All in all, Ukrainians have created a huge dilemma for Russians. Some of the Western articles have been talking about like this is a bad thing. They were stating that Ukrainians have not been telling their troops basically up to the night before they were relocated to the Kursk region where they started to go on attack. And I am not sure why the media is putting this as a bad thing, because we know what Russia did when everyone knew where Ukraine is going to attack. So if they required secrecy, that's how you achieve secrecy, is it not? Am I dumb? Tell me, please, in the comments. But if this is what it took to get Ukraine to achieve the factor of success, I say good job. In the meantime, an interesting fact has appeared with the information warfare that Russia is waging. One of the things that they're doing, and this is something that someone pointed it out to me, is that Russia is actually reporting that Ukrainians are operating further than even any of the pro-Ukrainian sources at all. And while oftentimes it does later come true that this was the truth, in other cases, this is psychological warfare where Russians are stating, hey, there is this settlement, Ukrainians were trying to attack this settlement, but we defeated Ukrainians, there we go, great job us, whereas there was potentially no fighting at all. And the same goes with some other things. For example, the OSINTers, they were able to detect. Russia has been pulling out videos and making videos about, hey, there is like helicopters striking Ukrainian forces, and here is our planes launching bombs at Ukrainian forces. They've looked at this, they've detected, they've checked the footage, and it turned out this was an old footage that has been already used. These were not real footages of strikes in Kursk. So Russia is trying to build again the narrative that they are ready to fight, that they have everything under control, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely amazing just how bad they're failing. I am gonna stop it here, guys, because I really want to delve deeper into analysis of what's the situation, what's the potential for war, what are we seeing Russians doing on a deeper military level. But I really want to hear from those experts that I mentioned. So I will release hopefully video tomorrow where I'm gonna have more information. And I want to say huge thanks to everyone that donated to support the 22nd Mechanized Brigade and other brigades that are participating in the offensive. Huge achievement, over 300,000. Absolutely tap yourself on the shoulder. It's great to be part of this community. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I see you next time.